It was billed as the game of the year, the game of the season, the game that would determine the number one seed in the NFC. And it might have been the most shocking result of the entire year. The Detroit Lions at home demolished the Minnesota Vikings. Demolished. Ran away with it. And the number one seed. They defeat Kevin O'Connell's team 31-9 at home. Wow. I truthfully, deeply cannot say that I expected this in any way, shape, or form. I am genuinely shocked. I do not watch a lot of football games where I am this surprised by what happened. The Lions played their style. A style that coming into the game didn't necessarily suggest that they would be able to win this game by 3 scores. But it did. It did. Crazy. I'm honestly shocked. 31-9? Welcome, football fans, to your NFL Week 18 reaction. And since this is Week 18, I'm not going to spend any time on the meaningless, and I'm not really going to focus on the nitty-gritty of the games. That's not really why I want to make this video. What's most intriguing to me is talking about the teams that will be in the playoffs, the teams that maybe just missed the playoffs, and discussing what they bring to the playoffs, and discussing what we saw in Week 18 to suggest their level of success in the playoffs. Because this was a devastating week in terms of pretenders and contenders, in terms of, I think, really showcasing a number of teams that just disappointed. I feel like this was a wacky Week 18, as somewhat expected. But it was also one where I just felt like the level of product from these teams that are supposedly good teams was just not good. You know, it just wasn't great. At this time of the year, there's supposed to be separation from the good teams and the bad teams. There's supposed to be a understanding of who the best teams are and who the worst teams are. And I just felt like we didn't see a lot of that. We really didn't. There was a lot of games that just didn't matter. There was a lot of games that could have mattered but didn't. There were shocking results, but I'm excited for the playoffs. I just feel like there are more bad teams in the playoffs than I ever remember. I don't know if it's just me. You guys let me know. But I feel like there are at least half of these teams. They're just not that great. I have to be honest. I have to be honest. Grunk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for your weekly NFL reactions. Let me know in the comments what you would prefer for the NFL playoffs. More live streams or more recaps just like this? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And let me know your thoughts on NFL Week 18. All the good, all the bad, all the in-between. And I want to begin with the game that was billed as the game of the year. The game that would settle the NFC North and the number one seed in the NFC. The Detroit Lions with an absolute demolishing of the Minnesota Vikings, 31-9, in a game that I've already said, it shocked me. And I just finished watching the game, so I am still in the process of shock. And the reason it's so shocking, guys, like Lions fans are probably going to say, I told you so, Mitch, and that's fair, I guess. I don't think even Lions fans thought they would win 31-9 after what we saw from this team on Monday night against the 49ers. And I understand that the 49ers, that was kind of their Super Bowl. That was a big game for them. Emotionally, like they didn't have anybody left on the roster, but they were out there and they were playing hard, and they played hard offensively. They played really well. But just to see the stark difference between the 49ers just going up and down the field against the Lions defense, and then watching this, it's just wild to me. Considering that the Vikings have had one of the best offenses in the league this year, considering that the Vikings have had some of the best quarterback play, receiver play, offensive play calling, balance. Like, overall, their offense has been top notch. Maybe not elite, but definitely in the top 10. And when you look at it on paper, a team in the Vikings that has great receivers versus a team in Detroit that's missing multiple corners, that's missing multiple pass rushers, that plays a lot of man, that plays their identity. They're going to blitz, they're going to play man. And thinking about the potential matchup against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, I would have never expected this result. And yeah, the Vikings moved the ball early and they did settle for field goals at inopportune times. But still, 31-9, holding them under 10 points is utterly insane. Ridiculous. And they dominated the second half. They won the second half 21-3. In a game in the first half that it felt like the Vikings were probably the better team. Like, especially from a surprising defensive standpoint of Minnesota, like looking at them and how they were performing against the best offense in the league in Detroit and saying like, yeah, they're playing really well. There was a safety that probably should have been called that wasn't called. Goff was forced into multiple turnovers. They were getting pressure after him. They were stopping the run well enough. They weren't really allowing the Lions to do that much through the air, like consistently. They were stopping the yards after catch. Like, the Vikings in the first half defensively played really well. And honestly, throughout the game, they didn't play awful. Like, if you just look at the collective of the entire game, the Lions had 394 yards. And that's a solid game for the Lions. Like, that's not like a special, outrageously great game from this offense. Like, we've seen them put up 500, 600 yards at times, like 30 first downs on it. Like, they had 24. They were 5 for 12 on third down. They were 2 for 4 on fourth down. For the Lions, that's pretty surprising, right? And the Vikings did have multiple sacks and multiple interceptions. So, like, for the Vikings defense to play, like, they gave up 31 at the end of the game, but if you really, like, watch them play from down to down, snap to snap, drive to drive, sure, they wore down at the end, but it felt like they played about as well as you would have expected, And then on the other side, it was just complete puking on themselves from Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold in this game was horrific. He was really bad in this game. Like, Sam Darnold, if there is a game tape that exposed him, if there is a game tape that they can point to Minnesota and say, you do not deserve that contract, we're not going to pay you, we're going to go with J.J. McCarthy for the future, it's this one. 18 for 41 in the biggest game of the year, 18 completions on 41 attempts with those receivers. And considering that, yeah, he was blitzed, but if you actually watch the game, like, the pressure that he was actually facing was not outrageous. There were tight windows to throw to. He was sped up, but he was not pressured a lot, in my opinion, just from the eye test. Tight coverage, and sped up, not pressured. You look at last week, and the Niners separated much better. The Niners had guys running wide open. San Francisco, I thought Brock Purdy played much better in that environment of being sped up than Sam Darnold, and perhaps that's the difference between the two players, is the mind, is the quickness in progression. And I think that's what Sam Darnold was exposed to. Composure, processing, mental speed. I think when we've seen Sam Darnold thrive this year, it's been comfort, confidence, rhythm, zone coverage. Because Sam Darnold, when he is protected, when he has time, when he knows where to go with the ball and it's there and available, first or second read, he can throw it. He can spin it. The ball can get there. He can even occasionally ad-lib or run. I think what we underestimated from Sam Darnold was still the seeing ghosts of Sam Darnold. The pressure. The big moment. Darnold choked. You know, I used to use this term a lot growing up watching sports. Choke. The Vikings, offensively, I want to say they choked in this game. Because the Lions defense played admirably. Amik Robertson was incredible. Alex Anzalone was great. Zadarius Smith played very well. Across the board, the Lions secondary, Brian Branch, the boys played great. They played physical. They played in your face. I love watching that style of football. That is my preference for a defense. As a Pats fan, I love man coverage. I love blitz-heavy football. I love confusion. That's my style. I grew up with it. It's what I know. My problem is the Lions' defense entering the game was not a unit that you would suggest could do that or achieve that. Typically, you need great cover men to achieve this, especially when playing Justin Jefferson. And yet they just played into the fact that they maybe considered or believed and saw something we didn't, or at least I didn't, that Sam Darnold could potentially puke on himself. He could potentially just shit himself. Like, I thought that he was past this because he's more mature. The way he's played this year, the accuracy of his football, the rhythm in his game. Like, and I also considered, like, I thought Jefferson, Addison, whoever it may be, would separate early in the route. But the Vikings basically took like a 2003 Patriots game plan and they just said, we're going to beat up the receivers. They're going to call holding occasionally, but they really didn't for the entire first half. We're just going to press them. We're going to be physical. We're going to bump them off their route. We're going to mess with their timing. We're going to blitz, and we're going to get home, and Darnold's going to throw a bad pass. There's going to be tip passes. He's going to be off rhythm. They're not going to have communication in their routes. How many times do you see Darnold throw a ball that was not in the right area of the route? Like, they broke the route off wrong. They had bad rhythm, bad timing. And the Lions basically played some early 2000s type of, like, big game football. That's what I saw. I saw some Aaron Glenn going back to his playing days and being like, hey, it's a big game. It's a playoff game atmosphere. We're at home. Their O-line's going to have to deal with communication. Sam's going to have to deal with communication. We're just going to beat these receivers up. It's the best chance we got. And we're going to force Sam to throw into tight windows. And something that I kept flashing back to in my mind watching this game was listening to Tom Brady on the last broadcast against the Packers. And throughout the game, he was saying, you know, he was grading throws. And there was occasionally a throw where it was like a B or like a C or a D by Sam Darnold, but it was completed. That sticks in my mind. And then you're talking about a moment in particular where I kept thinking about it throughout the game, where he said, eventually the Packers are going to have to contest these receivers and make these windows tight. And I don't know if the Lions just read this on the tape from the Vikings, if they listened to Tom Brady. I don't know. But Aaron Glenn, for a guy that I don't think is particularly a great head coaching candidate, I am not a huge fan of as a defensive coordinator. I have to give him a ton of credit because he totally shined in this game. He totally surpassed my expectation. He totally shocked me with this execution from this group of players. And this defense shocked me. I will say the Lions still have some good pieces on the defense entering the playoffs. Right? They've got two really good safeties. one that's a good matchup player, one that's a good zone player, right? They've got two really good linebackers. Campbell and Anzalone, when they're together, are fantastic, and they complement each other very well. And they're good in all elements of the game. So Darius Smith can still ball, as we've seen, right? And then Amik Robertson, he's a good matchup for those quick, shifty route runners. And I gotta say this, anyone that thinks Justin Jefferson is better than Jamar Chase is on crack cocaine. I don't know what to tell you. If you watch this game and said Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in football, and you watched Jamar Chase all season, you're on crack. There's still people debating that. So, I just think, Justin Jefferson choked. He was atrocious. I didn't really even see him in this game. He didn't make a single play that was really wow. Jordan Addison was not even visible. Jalen Naylor was their best receiver. TJ Hawkinson was atrocious. And I understand he's coming back from an injury. I thought Aaron Jones was the Vikings' best offensive player. Other than maybe a lineman or something. Defensively, I thought the Vikings played admirably from a run defense standpoint until the end of the game. They allowed a couple explosives to Gibbs, but that's going to happen. I thought that the edge rushers, Grenard and Van Ginkel, played fantastic. Metellus. Overall, their secondary was fine. Goff only had 231 yards on 27 completions. And he threw 2 picks. Harrison Smith played a solid game. But I felt like Goff was not great in this game. I thought the Vikings heated him up in certain moments. But I thought also, he was better than Darnold. And I think the key ingredient to why he was better than Darnold is he had better answers against the blitz. He's quicker minded. He got the ball out hot when he needed to, like the touchdown to Gibbs, a couple of the fourth downs. One of the fourth downs that I recall, one of the third downs that I recall. And he was able to sit in that pocket. And this is why I like Jared Goff in big games at times. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But this is why I think you can win with Jared Goff. Because he's tough. There's a lot of plays where I know he has a great O-line and he's got good weapons and he's got Ben Johnson and people will make, those asterisks. But his ability to stand there and get smoked and make a throw is always going to impress me. That is big game football and make an accurate, powerful throw. Sam Darnold did not do that in this game. I don't think one time. I don't think I watched Sam Darnold one time in this game get hit and throw the ball under pressure and complete the pass. I don't think I saw that in this entire game. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't recall it. I don't recall a single play where Darnold just stood in the pocket and threw a dot while getting contacted. And that was the difference. The Lions, they blitzed. The Vikings, they blitzed. The Lions maybe did a little bit better job protecting Goff, a little bit better job running the ball, but ultimately it came down to Goff threw his picks. Goff probably should have been called for a safety in the end zone for intentional grounding. Ref, okay, you're blind. But Goff ultimately made more throws. I thought the Lions playmakers played better. Jahmyr Gibbs is stud. Love the guy in college. Remember watching him live, scouting him in college. Guy's electric. Unbelievable. One of the best running backs in the league. One of the best players in the league. Period. I think he's a top 3 running back in the league. Other than Saquon, I don't know if you could say anybody's better. He's right there. He set the franchise record for touchdowns, I think, and I think he has the most touchdowns in the league. Maybe. I'm not sure. But, Amon-Ra made some nice plays, but, he wasn't, overwhelming. He had 6 for 77. But Jefferson had 3 catches. 3! In the biggest game of his life. He had 3 catches for 54 yards. 3. On 9 targets. I love Jefferson. I think he's a great player. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. And he was pouting the entire game. Addison was invisible. Laporta played okay. You know, I thought Reynolds made some nice runs. But Vikings had 14 first downs. Vikings went 3 for 13 on third down. 0 for 3 on fourth down. 0 for 3. This was tough, man. This was a tough walk. Like, I was wanting a great game here. I thought the game was going to be close. I picked the Vikings. I have to apologize for the Lions fans, but I honestly can't really regret it. I don't regret it because I just didn't see this as a conclusion. I couldn't foresee the way this game went. I couldn't predict it at all. I couldn't have predicted the Lions defense playing like this. From what we've seen from this defense lately, to just roll out and not change anything they do, actually just play into it even more. Just be even more aggressive. For them to just do that, and the Vikings to not be prepared for it, and the Vikings to not be able to beat it, and the Vikings to have Justin Jefferson and not be able to do anything, I mean, I just got to tip my hat and say, like, good game. I really can't say anything else, you know? So, unbelievable game by the Lions. I got to give Dan Campbell credit, Ben Johnson his credit, although this wasn't the most spectacular game I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, great stuff, man. Great stuff from the Lions. Great stuff. The Vikings were embarrassing. Like, the Vikings puked on themselves. The Vikings were gross. Sam Darnold was awful. Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year, apparently, totally outcoached. His offense was not prepared, predictable, you know? And I actually thought at one point in the game where Brian Flores had the beat on Ben Johnson. Like, I thought Brian Flores was all over everything. You know, it just ultimately came down to execution. I can't really blame this on Brian Flores or his defense. Thought this was just an implosion by the offense. Like, I'm thoroughly disappointed by the Vikings. Thoroughly. This was embarrassing. And I don't know, man. Are they going to beat the Rams? I don't know. They lost to them already. And I think the Rams can roll up this tape and say, we're just going to blitz the shit out of Sam Darnold and we're going to count on Stafford to get hit and throw a missile. That could happen. I've seen it before. So we'll see. But this game could happen again in 2 weeks. I don't even know if I want to see it. I'm shocked, man. Will the Lions be able to do the same thing twice? And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people after this game are going to say, Lions are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl. It's possible. Don't get me wrong. Very possible. But my question will they be able to play like this every game defensively? Because I thought this was the absolute peak performance of their defense. I don't think they're going to be able to do this again. Maybe I'm wrong. It's hard to bet against them. Because I don't know, man. That was shocking. All right, let's move on, though. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't already. The second topic I want to get to is the Patriots. So the Patriots won today, 23-16. Probably the most disappointing win of my fandom, as the Patriots cost themselves the first overall pick with the win. Now, I want to say, I thought the Patriots played hard. I thought Joe Milton showed us some things. He was 22 for 29, 241 and a touchdown. He ran the ball well. He showcased his physicality, his arm strength, his ability to run, shake sacks. He looks like a legitimate quarterback. He might even have a future as a starter. He's got physical talent. His arm is ridiculous. I love him as the backup, and he's got swag. That backflip, perfect, man. And Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, those receivers, Austin Hooper, they showed up. They showed up big time. So give them credit. But very disappointed they decided to go and win this game. Now, it was pretty obvious the Bills decided to lose this game, as they even pulled Mitch Trubisky from the game in favor of Mike White. And as soon as Mike White entered the game, I knew we were going to lose. He couldn't even throw the ball 5 yards. It was super embarrassing. Like, his ball would just flutter and, like, land 3 yards short of the receiver. The only thing the Bills wanted to do was get James Cook a touchdown. That's literally all they did. The Bills played all their backups. Josh Allen got his consecutive start streak. That's great. But at the end of the day, Bills lose on purpose to the Patriots. Patriots blow the first overall pick. It sucks. Now, the reason I'm not absolutely irate, although I was cheering for the Patriots to lose throughout the broadcast and the live stream, was because at least we have a quarterback. So at least it's not dependent, our draft pick's not dependent on picking a future quarterback. I would have been absolutely through the roof, break the TV, throw the remote at the screen if we needed a quarterback in this draft. But we do not. We have Drake May. We might even have Joe Milton. So we got 2 options, bro. But I'm just saying, I think Drake May is going to be a stud. Joe Milton, he might be a tradable asset. Just saying, though, we didn't need a quarterback. So we still have, I think, the 4th pick, receiver, offensive lineman, edge rusher, possibilities, right? Like Banks, Carter, McMillan, maybe Hunter, all possibilities, okay? But the thing that happened that I think kind of surprised me, just as the Lions did, not as much, but surprised me, was the Patriots firing Gerard Mayo. Now, the only reason I wasn't totally shocked was because earlier in the day, Adam Schefter did say that he thought it was more likely than not Gerard Mayo would be fired, which was the only public indication from any beat reporter or any national reporter that claimed that the Patriots would let go of Gerard Mayo. And I'm not sure what clicked in Robert Kraft's mind, the Kraft's minds in general. I'm not sure if it was the fans listening to, Patriot radio, listening to Boston media, listening to the fans in the stands with their signs. I'm not sure if it was social media. I'm not sure if it was the bottom line view. I'm not sure if Rob Kraft woke up and saw a vision. I'm not sure if it was Mike Vrabel flying to New York and interviewing for the Jets job. I'm not sure if it was him watching a Lions game and seeing Ben Johnson. I don't know what it was, but he made the right decision. And I made a full video on this. I did a live stream for Bleacher Report, so go check that out. I'm not going to spend too much time on Gerard Mayo getting fired and who the possible candidates will be. My opinion is that it's most likely to be Mike Vrabel. It's most likely to be Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, although I'm not 100% sure. Ben Johnson, I think, definitely deserves an interview and definitely should be taken very seriously for the job because he obviously is one of the best play callers in the league, if not the best. And he already is a North Carolina boy, North Carolina quarterback, North Carolina alum, and you have Drake May. So if there's a chance for that, I think you might have to go that direction. But if you have to get Mike Vrabel, if you want to go Mike Vrabel, I'm not going to hate that either. Because I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a great culture builder. I think he understands how to be a 3-level coach, 3 phases coach, an overseer of football, an overseer of a team. I think he's a leader of men. So I am not going to be mad about Mike Vrabel. But Ben Johnson's also very, very attractive. Okay? That being said, Rob Kraft deserves a lot of love, a lot of credit. He's been getting a lot of hate last offseason, this season. A lot of people calling him dumb. A lot of people thinking that he didn't have the balls, the testicles to drop his ego and make the right decision. And he did that. So he deserves an applause from me, from you, as all Patriots fans, because when he said he wants to put the fans first, and when he said the last thing he wants is for the Patriots to suck, and the first thing he wants, other than the greatness and the fulfilling of his family, is the fulfilling of the New England Patriots to be back as winners, and that's what he cares about most, other than his family. He was telling the truth, because obviously he believed in Gerard Mayo, and I totally get it. Right? I totally get it. I wasn't a hater of Gerard Mayo previously. I thought he was a little underqualified. I was kind of confused why they didn't interview anybody else. I said that at the moment. I was not really sure what Gerard Mayo would bring to the table. I was kind of convinced that it would be defense and it would be personality. But neither of those things really worked out in terms of the culture building or the defensive prowess. If anything, they both regressed. But I understand. Kraft thought Mayo was the guy. He thought he was the next Belichick of his team. He was wrong, and he understood he was wrong. Right? We're human. We're going to be wrong. Kraft took a chance. He was wrong. But he didn't wait too long to make that decision. He did it immediately. As soon as the season was over, he gave him a full season to prove himself. He was wrong. Okay? Like, with the quarterback that we have, as bad as the team is, as bad as the roster is, the O-line, all that, the defense went from top 5 unit to a bottom 5 unit. Gerard Mayo's a defensive coach. Okay? He went from Belichick and firing Belichick to hiring this jabroni, and he completely was wrong about that. Now, that being said, he quickly addressed it. That is a sign of a great leader. That's a sign of a great man. And I'm excited for the future. I think we've got a lot of assets. I think the Patriots' future is bright. We've got a ton of cap space. We've got a great quarterback that people love. That's a great kid. That's going to work hard. That's going to get better. And we've got, a great draft pick coming up. We don't need a lot. We don't need a lot. It starts with the coach and the quarterback. And if we can nail this coaching hiring, we've got the quarterback, man. It's going to come together. I mean, just look at the Chargers, a team that's not really that talented. Got the quarterback. Okay, you found the coach. All of a sudden, it starts to hum in the right direction. So it's not even going to take a lot of talent. All right? Because I think, May could be a top 10 quarterback as soon as next year. I wouldn't really be shocked by that. So I'm really excited for the Patriots next year. I'm going to be really pumped about this offseason. I'm really intrigued to see what direction they go with the coaching hire, what they do with the front office. It feels like Elliott Wolf will be back, which I'm not sure I love, but I'm not sure I hate. And I talked about that more in my reaction, but that's kind of my brief reaction. So go check out the rest over on my live stream that I made for Bleacher Report. It's posted on the channel, so go check that out. But yeah, disappointed in the draft pick, but still, we don't need a quarterback, so I can't be absolutely irate. And I'm just more excited that we made the right decision with our coach, because the thing I was dreading was entering next season understanding we had a terrible coach. You never have a chance when you don't have a coach. Okay? Now let's move to some of the rest of the football. We talked about Saturday yesterday, so I'm going to leave that alone. Let's just go through the playoff teams. Chargers took care of business 34-20 over the Raiders. This game felt like it was going to be close at the beginning, but the Chargers pulled away in the late second quarter, where they scored 3 consecutive drives, Dicker field goals, and then DJ Chark touchdown at the end of the second quarter to go up 17-10. Then they dominated the second half, winning it 17-10 again, but scoring 17-3 before the Raiders added a late touchdown to Bowers. Our boy Jacoby Myers did have 9 catches for 123 yards for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell didn't have a terrible game, 24 for 34, 214, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Chargers defense, Quentin Johnson did have a really good game, 13 for 186. He was peppered targets in the first half. Peppered. The Chargers had 26 first downs, 473 yards, and once again, another impressive offensive performance. First half, it was a little sputtery, but second half, they figured it out. They only ended up punting 1 time. They had no turnovers, no sacks. 38 minutes of possession. The Chargers are an impressive team right now. They didn't fool around. The Raiders have been competitive lately. The Raiders have been a solid team lately. They've been playing better offense with O'Connell. They've been playing solid enough defense. Herbert, 28 for 36, 346, 2 touchdowns in this game. Very effective day. He was throwing the ball well. He was very comfortable. He was confident. I think this team deserves to be favored on the road at Houston. I think they are the better team. I think they're playing the better football. And I'd be slightly surprised if they lost. Only slightly because they're on the road. But I think the way they've been playing, especially offensively lately, gives me reason for belief in the Chargers. That being said, it won't be easy. It should be a close either way game. But the Chargers look good. And I think, they'll even give the Chiefs a game if that ends up being the matchup in the second round. But Jim Harbaugh's team trending in the right direction towards the playoffs. That's what you love to see. This was one of the more predictable games of the day, right? Chargers winning, Chargers covering. I have to give them credit for that. Seattle and the Rams was on at the same time, and it was a very odd, fun game. 30-25, Seattle won. Jimmy Garoppolo got the start for the Rams. He put up 334 in this game, 27 for 41, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. He nearly threw 2 picks, but he only threw 1. Could have thrown multiple, but he played pretty well. Jimmy showed that he still has a little bit left in the tank, which I didn't really think he did. But in this McVay-Shanahan attack, he's always been solid, and he showed that in this game. So he at least showed that he still has some longevity to his career here as a backup or something. Higbee got in the end zone. Good for him. Good sight for the playoffs. He was one of the starters that did play. The Rams had 400 yards in this game. Shockingly, I didn't think they would move the ball this well or like score this many points against a Seahawks defense that had been playing really well recently. They only punted 2 times. They went 2 for 3 on 4th down. I was genuinely surprised by how the Rams played offensively. And, guys like Tyler Johnson, Tutu Atwell, played pretty good games. The Rams didn't play a lot of defenders or offensive guys on either side that were starters. I thought Geno played a really good game, 20 for 27, 4 touchdowns, 223. The run game was still spotty for Seattle. Noah Fant made an incredible touchdown for the win. DK Metcalf had a really nice touchdown in the second quarter. I like the Barner kid. I like the Bobo. JSN was kind of quiet, I thought, overall. But Seahawks win 30-25, but I still thought it was a pretty impressive game for the Rams. I thought their offense actually looked much better than it had in previous weeks, and that was with their backup quarterback. So that's good to see, I think. The Seahawks, though, they kind of proved in this game they don't really deserve to be in the playoffs. I mean, this was basically their entire team playing. Their starters were playing against backups, and I know that they didn't really care that much because it didn't matter. But still, only beating the backup Rams by 5 points is not really impressive. When you consider that the Broncos beat the backup Chiefs 38-0. And the Broncos, I think, are going to get a little buzz to be a little bit of an underdog against Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised if they covered that game, but I don't think they're going to win. But nonetheless, 29 first downs, 10 for 14 on third, 2 for 2 on fourth, 479 yards. They had 5 sacks. They absolutely dominated. The Chiefs didn't even have 100 yards. The Chiefs were 1 for 9 on third down. They were 1 for 2 on fourth down. They had 5 first downs. Thoroughly dominant were the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix was 26 for 29, 4 touchdowns, 321. His stats this season as a rookie are really impressive. I thought I watched the first half. He threw probably like 10 swing passes. That's the thing with Bo Nix, is the offense is so calculated under Sean Payton. He's morphed and changed his style drastically to fit Bo Nix, and it's been exquisite. I mean, the quick screens, the tunnel swing passes. Bo Nix doing a great job with his legs, I thought, in this game. The quick RPOs. Nix is operating like he's at Oregon, man. He's so comfortable back there. The O-line is phenomenal. Their run game isn't that good, but they have so many screens, so many quick passes, so many ways to find yards and yards after catch. I mean, it's really impressive. Marvin Mims, 2 touchdowns, electric player. Vele with one of the most incredible touchdowns of the year. Cortland Sutton also had a touchdown. So Broncos really, really impressive. In a must-win game to make the playoffs, they fucking annihilated the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs weren't even competitive, didn't even really try. Carson Wentz was Carson Wentz, and it was bad. The Jets beat the Dolphins 32-20. Nothing really to say there. The game could have mattered. We were ultimately right about that prediction. I should have bet the Jets, in all honesty. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, just shout out to Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest of all time. I hope he comes back next year. He threw 4 touchdowns in this game, 274. Devontae Adams had one of them, 88 yards. The Jets won. They beat the crap out of the Dolphins. It was nice to see, 32-20, maybe their best game of the season. Tyler Huntley and the Dolphins couldn't get it done. Tyreek wants to be traded. Drama in Miami. What else is new? But Aaron Rodgers, 4 tutties. Congratulations. I think he hit a big historic mark for him in his career. Hopefully he returns next year. I'd love to see him next year. I think the NFL is better with Aaron Rodgers, whether you love him or you hate him. And I think he's actually played better this year than people think. I don't think everything's about how Aaron Rodgers has played. But I think, that haters are going to hate. And congrats to the Jets on the win. Cardinals won 47-24 over the Niners. The game was closer than the score until the late fourth quarter, where the Cardinals scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to separate from the Niners. This was an offensive fest. I mean, both offenses had 26 first downs. The Niners actually had 436 yards, and they threw 2 picks, and they fumbled once. So they had 3 turnovers, right? Josh Dobbs played well. The game didn't matter. 326, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Patrick Taylor also had 100 yards. Ricky Pearsall had another good game, a touchdown, really nice touchdown. Kyler Murray looked great because the game didn't matter. 4 touchdowns, 242. Marvin Harrison scored a touchdown when it didn't matter. Greg Dortch was one of the best players in this game. Those are my thoughts there. The game didn't matter, though. What else? Texans did take care of business over Tennessee, 23-14. Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, the starters, some of them did play early in this game. Dameon Pierce had 19 carries for 176 yards and a touchdown. The Texans went up 17-3 at half, and they pretty much called it a day. They won 23-14. They at least look a little bit better than they did previously. They held Tennessee to only 14 first downs on the day. Next, the Colts won a meaningless game in overtime over Jacksonville. Nobody cares. The Commanders survived in Dallas, 23-19. This was one of those games that I talked about earlier that I thought was a reflection of a team that's a pretender. I thought the Commanders looked really weak in this game. They were playing a team that they had already lost to in devastating fashion earlier in the year. That kind of exposed them, and now this game exposed them even further. This is a game that they did need to win to have better seating position, to not face the Eagles, which is what they wanted, to not face the Eagles. Ultimately, they get the job done with a last-second touchdown to Terry McLaurin from Marcus Mariota, but Jaden Daniels gets hurt in this game. Mariota has to go in, and he ends up being better than Daniels by a mile in this game. He was 15 for 18, 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran effectively in this game, which, speaking of, the Washington Commanders had no run game in this game to speak of outside of the quarterbacks. I thought the Cowboys were the better team through the early portion of the game. They were up 9-3 at one point, and then it was 10-9, and then it was 12-10, and there was a number of times where the Cowboys could have scored a touchdown, but they settled for a field goal because of a drop or something, or a penalty or something like that. Trey Lance actually, I thought, played one of the better games I've ever seen him play in his career. 20 for 34, 244. He wasn't great. He was still a little inaccurate, but he showed his athleticism more so than most games I've seen him in. He looked more confident and composed. Rico Dowdle also played pretty well. Jalen Tolbert and Brandon Cooks played pretty decent. But Dallas had more first downs, better third down conversion rate. They had more yards, 378 to 269. Ultimately, they had more time of possession by 15 minutes. Felt like the Cowboys were going to win this game. It felt like they had more of the ball. It felt like they were the better team. It felt like they were outplaying and outclassing the Commanders, which is a concern entering the playoffs if you're Washington. But the Washington Commanders ultimately pulled it off, which has been kind of a theme over the last few weeks and the last 2 months of the season for the Commanders. They get outplayed, but somehow they win. And it didn't matter the quarterback today. Daniels did it before. Mariota did it now. So I guess you give them credit for the win because it was a game that they wanted to win and they won. But at the same time, I thought they looked very, very exposed. I thought they didn't look very good at all. Another team that I thought didn't look great and they actually play each other is Tampa Bay. Tampa 27, New Orleans 19. Tampa plays the Commanders at home next week in the wild card. Now, I think Tampa will heavily depend on their health of their secondary. Their secondary is very beat up. They need healthy players next week to beat the Commanders. That being said, they beat them in week 1 pretty convincingly, and I think their offense matches up well with the Commanders' defense. Can ball possess just as the Cowboys did. They'll have a game plan for Jaden Daniels. That'll be interesting. The Commanders got to stop falling behind early against good teams, because if they do that, they're going to lose in the playoffs rather quickly. But the Bucs did that in this game. They fell behind 13-3, and 16-6. And they still won 27-19 by 8 points. Mostly because of Baker Mayfield and Bucky Irving and third downs. You know, Baker was spectacular on third down. 10 for 16. They were 1 for 1 on fourth. He had one of the best throws of the season to McMillan for a long touchdown after McMillan got called for one of the most biggest bullshit penalties I've ever seen in my life on a taunt where they said he had gun hands. Like, what was that? He also did throw a pick, but I thought his plays on high leverage downs was incredible. The stats won't reflect how well Baker played in this game. I thought he played really, really well. That Bucks also had 12 penalties, and there were 20 penalties in total, which is insane. You know, Bucky Irving had another productive day. Mike Evans, great moment at the end in the fourth quarter. The very last play, Mike Evans goes over 1,000 yards to tie Jerry Rice's record. Incredible feat, incredible pop from the crowd and the stadium and the fans. Not a nicer guy in the NFL, not a better guy in the NFL, not, you know, just a guy that's more respected by fans, by players across the NFL than Mike Evans. That was a great moment. Love to see it. Mike Evans has been amazing this year. He deserved this 1,000 yards because he had only played like 14 games. So he definitely deserved it. So yeah, a great moment for Mike Evans for sure. But otherwise, I thought the Bucs defense was very shaky. I thought their coverage was suspect. I thought Spencer Rattler ripped them up. This was the best game I've seen Rattler play. 26 for 42, 240, and a touchdown. He made a number of nice throws to Juwan Johnson, his tight ends, down the seam, you know, over the middle of the field. He was very productive. I thought the run game, Clyde actually played pretty well in the receiving department, but the run game was not very good for the Saints. Bucs need to be better in the back end. So that's my concern entering the playoffs for them. But their offense, man, when Baker's playing well on high leverage downs, they're a lot of fun to watch. The Panthers beat the Falcons in the craziest game of the day, 44-38, to officially eliminate the Falcons from the playoffs, but it ultimately didn't matter because the Bucs ended up winning. But hey, I just got to give a shout out to the Panthers just because 25 for 34, 3 touchdowns, 251 for Bryce. The Bryce is right in Carolina, and a comeback by the Panthers. They scored 4 touchdowns in the second half and overtime. 4 touchdowns. So congratulations there. They had 25 first downs, 425 yards. I don't really think they care about their draft stock. Atlanta, offensively, I thought played pretty well. You know, Penix had over 300 yards. He was a little erratic with his accuracy again, 21 for 38, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, had a big turnover, but Bijan, 170 yards on the ground, 6.1 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns. I think the best running backs in the league are Saquon, Gibbs, and Bijan at this point. I think that's probably the list. Drake London had 18 targets, 187 yards on 10 catches and 2 touchdowns. Insane game for him from Michael Penix delivering the football. And I mean, you can't discredit the Falcons offense. They had 537 yards. But Raheem Morris and the joke that he is as a coach, his defense got absolutely ripped up by Canales' offense, Bryce Young and company, and the Panthers upset the Falcons with an overtime victory. So congratulations to them. Raheem Morris is a joke. The Bears beat the Packers in perhaps the most concerning result of the day. Not only did Christian Watson get hurt and he's probably out for the playoffs and the rest of the year, but also Jordan Love got hurt and had to leave this game. Malik Willis comes in and doesn't play bad, 10 for 13, 136, set them up with a potential game-winning field goal drive, but doesn't get enough done here. The Packers just didn't play well on offense. They turned it over multiple times in the first half. The Bears got a touchdown from their defense. The Bears got another fumble, I think, that put them in position for another touchdown early in the game. And I think at one point Caleb had like 3 yards or something, and they were up 14-3. Like, they had done nothing on offense, and their defense just set them up with a bunch of points. And that's pretty much the story. Like, Caleb ended up with 148 yards and a touchdown. He didn't turn it over with an interception, but 148 yards, and they won this game 24-22. DeAndre Swift only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. That's going to be critical. They've got to stop the run against the Eagles. It's going to be critical that they stop the run. Emmanuel Wilson had a good game. Heath made some impressive catches for the Packers. DJ Moore had a pretty good game. He had an incredible catch on, I think it was like 3rd down or something, where he's like, that was a crazy catch. He also had a touchdown. The Bears, you know, I feel like they won this game because of the turnovers, but ultimately, like, they were still 7 for 14 on 3rd, 1 for 1 on 4th. They didn't turn it over as much. like, Keenan Allen actually threw a really stupid pick. And if he doesn't throw that pick, it might have been a more decisive victory. He threw a pick on a trick play. It was wild. Yeah, I mean, this was really disappointing. Like, the Packers, not defensively, I thought they played sound. I thought they played well. But offensively, their passing game was not it. Their running game was not great. The receivers just love. I just didn't love anything I saw out there, you know? I didn't. I really didn't. So 24-22, I think the Packers are on the ropes. I kind of thought like they would be an interesting game against the Eagles because maybe I'm too high on the Packers, but the Eagles are just a much better team. I mean, they really should beat the Packers. So, but you never know. It's the playoffs. Who knows? The Packers showed up last year in the playoffs, but I don't get the same vibe from this Packers team. They're not playing with the same sort of energy. They're not playing with the same sort of rhythm. They're not playing with the same sort of momentum. Most importantly, they lost to the Bears, even with, their backups out, their backup or their quarterback out. I still feel like that's a tough loss. The Eagles, on the other hand, beat the Giants 20-13. I didn't watch a single second of the game. I really don't have anything to say at all. And that's pretty much it. I think I went through every game in some way, shape, or form. The Eagles, the Packers. We're going to get great matchups in the wild card round. Just to give you that quick recap, Chargers at the Texans. And I'm going to give you an initial lean here just for fun. I'm going to lean Chargers. Chargers are -3. Steelers at the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 9.5 at home. I think I would take the Ravens to win, but I think I would lean towards the Steelers to cover still, even with what we've seen from them lately. I thought the Ravens looked sloppy against the Browns. And Steelers usually play the Ravens well. It's a playoff game. They should get up for it. Broncos at the Bills. Bills are favored by 9. Hard for me to say that they, will cover that. I think the Broncos are a tough team. But the Bills, might be the favorite for me in the AFC. I definitely think they'll win. The Eagles hosting the Packers, 4.5. I think the Eagles will win and cover probably by a touchdown. Commanders at the Bucks. I would lean Bucks, but I have to see the Bucks injuries. 3.5 is tricky though. That's a high total. I could see that game maybe landing on a field goal, but I think the Bucks will win. And then the Rams and the Vikings. I want to say the Vikings, but I'm not sure, man. I want to say the Vikings. I'm not sure the Rams will have the same success defensively as the Lions did today, but we'll find out. Those are your matchups for Wild Card Week. It's a very interesting Wild Card Week. I feel like because of the lack of decisiveness from some of these teams and some of the inconsistencies, I feel like it's going to be a very tough one to predict, or we're just going to get like all the favorites are going to win. Like it's rather going to be a wild one or one where like every favorite just unanimously wins the game. But we'll see. Divisional round is going to be really good this year, I think. Potentially. A lot of fun. But that's it, guys. That's my recap for week number 18. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. All the love, all the support, all regular season long. And more is coming for the playoffs, guys. Peace.